So to drain the radiators on these, what I've done is I've just taken, that's a 2.5 gallon, just a diesel exhaust fluid bucket, but you can use any bucket that you want. I've already gone ahead and taken the cap off, and now I've just got it sitting in there. You can see the hose right there. I'm just got it set up to drain directly into the jug. So that'll take a little bit. Nice clean coolant coming out, so that's certainly encouraging. I'm actually going to tighten it up a little bit there. So I'm going to let this sit there and drain. You can see it going in there. I'm going to let it sit there and drain and get all the coolant out, and then go from there. Probably what I'll do is I'll start disconnecting what wiring is left while I'm waiting for that coolant to drain, and then I will probably take the drive shaft off. Can't decide if I'm going to take it off at this end or take it off at that end. Really have no desire to pull the whole drive shaft out with the motor, so I'll probably take it off here. Those should be 15mm bolts, I believe. I'll have to double check. So you should be able to, trying to see how, I actually might have to take it, I might have to take the whole assembly off. Anyway, I'll figure that out. I haven't taken the drive shaft off one of these in a long time. Like I said, I own that 445, but I can't even remember what I did. I think I sold that as a rolling frame. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, I'll get the drive shaft off, let this finish draining and everything. So there you go. Alright, so got the radiator hoses off, got the air cleaner off. Now, and also got the throttle cables off. Now, in interest of time and daylight, I'm actually going to go ahead and disconnect the engine. I'm not going to pull it out. That way I can go ahead and get the radiator out and get it washed out and everything. So I'm not trying to do that after dark when it gets colder again. But what I'm going to do that is you've just got to take out the bolts for the radiator, and then it should just pop right out. I think I've got enough room. I can swing it back out away from the fan. I'm not quite sure. If I can't do it that way, then I will move the engine forward. But we're going to focus on the radiator right now, and then we'll come back and we'll grab the engine here in just a little bit. Overall, key thing when you're working with these engines, don't rush, don't make a mess. You can see that I have very minimal spillage of coolant, everything else, because coolant, I do have dogs. You've seen them in a couple of videos, so certainly want to be mindful of any creatures, stuff like that. Dispose of coolant properly, things like that. But just be mindful of it. Take your time. Don't get in a rush. I see a lot of folks, they get in a rush and they spill stuff everywhere. One thing I did notice, and I had not noticed before, I went to go take the muffler off, and actually the two bolts that went here to anchor the muffler on were no longer there. So that's something to be mindful of. Like I said, I'm going to throw that muffler away. It had some leaks, some cracks in it. So yeah, we'll go from there. Alright, engine's out. That was actually, I forgot about the hydraulic oil cooler on the bottom of the radiator. You can see this this hydraulic line and that hydraulic line over there. Those actually connect to the bottom of the radiator, so it's actually easier to take the engine out. So there's the engine. It's easier to take the engine out to get to those lines. One little thing I think I will mention, to get to the isolator on the drive shaft, works best. This is the ratchet that I use to do those kind of things. It's a flex head ratchet. This is just a Craftsman. I mean, they got snap-ons. This one's a little loose. It tends to flip a little bit too much, in my opinion. But it works really well to get in there. So, for instance, to get into their drive shaft, I had to sit in here like that. And you can work on it because you got the frame right here. But yeah, I mean, a flex head ratchet works really, really well for things like that. That way you're not having to get in there with a wrench to take the bolts out and whatnot. So went ahead, got the radiator all washed out and the bottom cleaned out. So it's all nice and clean. There's probably still a little, I guess it's a little oil dripping out of the bottom still. I thought I had most of it out, but I'll keep working on that. That'll dry out for the next couple days and then get it taken care of. So Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go ahead and take the drive shaft out, and then work on the dash cluster and everything. Go ahead and get that out, and we'll go from there. So yeah, it's coming along nicely. I try not to take all the wheels and everything out until I absolutely have to. What I'm going to do with this engine is I'll actually probably, I haven't decided how I'm going to dispose of the engine yet. Leave it whole or what. But I'm going to put it on the workbench, and then I'll probably tear it apart just so everybody can see what they look like when you tear them apart. They're pretty simple overall. But yeah, so it's coming along nicely. In the end, we should have an empty frame. So that's the exciting part, I guess, and more space in the shop. Now, one thing I haven't shown you is I have not shown you the deck. You can see the deck. It's in pretty, you can see through it in a couple spots. Just big, massive rust holes in there. I do already have the drive shaft and the gearbox out. I'll show you. I'll do a picture of those here in a little bit, or video of those here in a little bit. I went ahead and drained the gear oil out of the gearbox, and then I've already got it cleaned up the drive shaft and everything because it had been sitting out on top of the deck, so it was pretty rusty and whatnot. The bearings and the pulleys and the spindles seem okay. I might shoot some grease in there. I might take them apart. I'm not really sure. We'll have a little bit of fun with it. So, sorry if this isn't as informative as you would have hoped. Honestly, I almost want to do a little bit more, but just because of time, it's really hard to do videos. So, hopefully, this is helpful to someone. Just listen to me babble, take it apart. Maybe I'm wasting your time. But anyway, so get the drive shaft out, then work on the dash tower and everything else, and we should be good to go, and we'll go from there.